Elissa was a beautiful queen who had to flee her lands of Phoenicia. According to legend, she took her people to the lands of North Africa, where a vain and arrogant monarch did not believe in ruling queens. He told her that he would only give her the land that the hide of an ox could cover. She cut the hide into thin strips and put the strips around a massive hill, claiming the area that would become one of the greatest cities of the Mediterranean, Carthage, or, according to the Romans, Carthago. We know it as Carthage. Carthage was made up of several immigrant communities from the region known as the Levant, and spoke a Semitic language from the region. The Romans called them Punic, after the Greek translation of the same name of their land of origin. The location of Carthage was considered strategic even by those times. Easy access to Iberia, along with trade with Gaul and other Roman provinces, Egypt and Greek states, and even Indian kingdoms, made Carthage among the wealthiest city-states throughout the Mediterranean. Several African peoples and kingdoms maintained trade with them as well. Metallurgy was the prominent trade of the affluent empire, and the merchants were rolling in cash. The religion of Carthage was polytheistic, although there was one chief god known as Baal Hamon, and human sacrifice to please the gods was a common occurrence. The religious clergy was highly developed, with the priests hailing from the wealthy families of the state, and it was an integral part of the lives of the masses. Although the Carthaginian religion was from the Phoenician territories, Carthage developed a syncretic system of beliefs, drawing from West African, Greek, and even Egyptian methods of worship. Carthage also had a well-established system of checks and balances, one of the earliest of the ancient world. Magistrates who ran for office, a senate, and the people's assembly of sorts, governed life throughout Carthaginian lands. Aristotle himself spoke highly of this system, although it would sometimes fall to the whims of a select few among the aristocratic ranks. Carthage also made a treaty for trade with Etruscan cities, forming a peace with the emerging Roman Republic. However, Carthage continued to expand and settle various areas throughout the Mediterranean, most notably on the island of Sicily. The wealth and power of Carthage caused the Roman Republic to sweat. A rival power at its doorstep, and making gains on Sicilian lands, caused the Roman senators to lose their minds. And so, Rome launched their attack on the Sicilian city of Messana during 264 BC, starting the brutal and costly First Punic War. The Romans, who were regarded as the masters of the land, were going up against the Carthaginian lords of the high seas. With Carthage boasting the strongest navy at the time, the Romans used their enemy's design and made technological advances. With several Pyrrhic victories, the Romans defeated Carthage after 23 years of war. With the lead commander of the defeated forces, Hamilcar Barca, forced to sign a humiliating treaty that would bankrupt his already war-weary and starving people and release all claim to Sicily, with the largest naval battles of the ancient world having occurred during the war. Carthage's fleet was either severely damaged or destroyed. As such, their trade declined dramatically and left them with a burning wish for vengeance. Our story begins with the birth of a son of the commanding general of the Carthaginian forces fighting in Sicily. The year 247 BC was one of mixed results for Carthage. With their forces having lost all except Drepanum and Lilybaeum, the Carthaginians were desperate for a breakthrough. Their fortunes changed somewhat when Hamilcar Barca arrived at the northwestern part of the island and established a stronghold near Mount Ercte, near modern Palermo. He wreaked havoc on Roman garrisons all over the island and even southern Italian coasts. However, his ally, Hero II, was beaten by the Romans and was reduced to governing a small part of Sicily under the watchful eye of the Roman Senate. However, the one good news Hamilcar possibly received that year was the news of the birth of his eldest son. Named Hannibal, he would grow up as any son of a general of Carthage would, learning from the greatest libraries of his city, being tutored by his noblewoman mother, reading the stories of Alexander the Great and his journey towards creating his empire, and being taught by military officers how to wield a sword, archery set, and how to command cavalry forces. Hannibal appeared to hold on to every atom of information that crossed him. He also held on to the hatred that he was surrounded by throughout his time at home. With the Romans having beaten them in so many battles, Carthage and her people would have considered being called Roman as an insult. The treaty that ended the First Punic War stated that Carthage would have to pay Rome the equivalent of millions of modern US dollars over the course of 10 years. Along with territorial losses, the Carthaginian senators were frustrated over how to pay this enormous sum. Some proposed taxing the farmers, a surefire way of causing rebellion. However, Hannibal's father, Hamilcar, and his friends planned to enlarge their realm into a new land full of silver, gold, and warrior tribes famed for their unbreakable will, Iberia. However, the conservative politician Hanno, remember him for the future, was reluctant to run the risk of further annoying the Romans. Of course, Hamilcar would not listen. According to some sources, the conservative wing of the Senate may have been glad to see him go, so that they would be rid of an annoyance. Hamilcar paid for his own private army, supplies, and ships for his Iberian expedition, and one day, he and Hannibal visited the temple of Baal-Hamon. After performing a sacrifice and reciting the ancient prayers, Hamilcar asked his son if he wanted to go to Spain along with him. Hannibal, who had grown up learning of the battles of Alexander the Great, the valor of the Spartans, and the humiliating defeats his motherland had suffered at the hands of an upstart Roman Republic, was overjoyed at the offer and immediately agreed. This had been his wish, his dream, to serve his country alongside his father and fight the Romans. Then, Hamilcar told his son that if he was sincere, he would swear an oath. This was the oath that would shake the world Rome had built around itself. This oath would take human warfare to heights no one had ever seen. This oath would rewrite the books of history and become etched into the sands of time. Hannibal pledged an eternal oath of unwavering hatred for Rome, her people, and her armies, and to not ever let himself give mercy to them. He would avenge Carthage as a soldier, avenge her untimely defeats, and restore her place to the world stage as a beacon of wealth and power. And so, after what must have been a tearful goodbye from their family, Hamilcar and Hannibal set off with the former's private army, setting course for the Phoenician city of Gadir of Iberia. It would be 40 years before Hannibal would return.